Welcome to SoapBox.
All support teams are important, but it's that one person really that's holding it all together, that's coordinating it. They're the dumping ground.
And that wasn't visible to researchers prior to, like, literally a fortnight ago. They've just gone, hey, they're doing stuff that we didn't know they were doing.
The real moat that SJP had as a big giant machine was being eroded by the changes that they made to their charging structure. It's Advisor 3.0 SoapBox edition. Welcome to the latest episode of SoapBox. I am delighted to be joined by Matt Pitcher, who needs no introduction. And today we are joined by the Queen of Wow, I like to think of her, the goddess of business and operation management. That is the unstoppable Michelle Hoskin. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Matt, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm slightly cooler this week than I was last, so less sweaty, which is always good for everyone, not just me.
Good. So we have a couple of topics to get our teeth into today, and as I'm holding the mic, I better start with my favorite on this list, which is the news. I think it broke yesterday that this new open AI model that is being tested in a sandbox managed to break out of the sandbox and managed to hack the the system of Hugging Face. Hugging Face, for the uninitiated, is this model evaluation provider. They evaluate all the models and they work out which one of them, they rate them, which one of them is is doing better on all these different metrics. Anyway, this model, this open AI model breaks out of its own sandbox. It was being tested and hacked Hugging Face system, and the goal was it wanted to steal the model evaluation method or methodology so that it can pass the model. And so there is this news overnight that's been going around about the cybersecurity risk that comes with AI in general. So I think that's a good place to start. Matt, Michelle, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, can I start, right? The dog's now in frame, but the flipping world's gone batshit crazy, isn't it? I mean, what on earth? I mean, honestly, like, I'm petrified, literally petrified of what this world looks like in 20 years' time. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, I've never heard of these terms ever. I mean, there's going to be so much change in the next. I don't know. I mean, I've got a 15-year-old daughter, and that freaks me out most days. But when this sort of stuff is overlaid, I just think I always want to go back into my own sandbox and just like live in this world where there's nobody else in it. Do you know what I mean? I mean, what do you guys think about it? I think the world's crazy.
It is. I mean, there are differences between the companies that we're talking about here. I mean, the two lead companies in the US at the moment, OpenAI, Anthropic. Anthropic seemed to have fixed this. So this was a big problem for the Claude releases that they had. And Anthropic couldn't work out why Claude was doing this and why it was trying to behave badly, basically. And so what they did is they traced it back to what they had, where it was learning, so what they were teaching it, basically. And what they found is actually, because a lot of these large language models are built on, hundreds of thousands, millions of pieces of data from Reddit. Reddit seems to be the biggest. Reddit threads are the biggest data source they've trained it on. And of course, what's in a big Reddit thread? Well, a lot of it is apocalyptic stories, and it's about computers taking over the world, and it's Terminator scripts. There's all this kind of stuff. And Anthropic actually realized that if you train an AI on stories of AI behaving badly, lo and behold, AI behaves badly. right?
Yeah.
So they actually retrained Claude from scratch with positive stories of AI saving humans and saving the world and all the rest of it. And since then, Claude has been behaving itself. OpenAI, as far as I understand it, have not been doing the same. So it's hardly any wonder that it's trying to do this stuff. But I mean, there's so much in this story, isn't there? I mean, it's extraordinary. Back in my day, it was A-level students would try and break into the headmaster's office and grab
Yeah.
the exam papers the night before the exam and cram for it. I mean, essentially, it's the same thing. Perfectly logical, actually, for the model to do this.
Well,
Um,
sorry, Michelle, you wanted to say something.
No, I was listening and just processing what Matt just said. I was almost like I needed a minute to just get to the bottom of what he'd said. Well, you go,
Yeah.
Abraham, you go.
Yeah, look, my thoughts are this. So first of all, when you dig deeper into the story, there are a couple of tells. One is that OpenAI had deliberately relaxed the guardrails for this new model. And the cynic in me says, to your point, Matt, Fable, which is the latest version of Anthropic, got a lot of airtime, free airtime, by the way, when the US government essentially asked them to put it back into the box. In other words, they removed it from releasing a version of Fable to the general public. And so the US government says, no, there are security vulnerabilities in this thing. This thing is dangerous, if you like. So put it back in the box and find a way to put proper safeguard around it. Now, if I was Sam Altman, the OpenAI CEO, your next best competitor, as a matter of fact, your better competitor, got a lot of airtime by essentially saying we now have the latest model that has the capabilities to find vulnerabilities in your system, and they've managed that so well now that they've been able to put some safeguard around the release of this model so that it can't get into wrong hands. Well, if I was him in like this dog eat dog capitalistic world of the US of A, I'm going to think to myself, I want me some of those actions. And so, in other words, my cynical point is, I suspect that OpenAI did this to show that they're in the game as well, that their latest models is not the capabilities, to exploit vulnerabilities in other systems. And so that's that's my first take out of this. I could be wrong. But my second take is that I am sure there are people in our industry, in financial services generally, who are sitting there thinking to themselves, oh, well, we haven't adopted AI in our business. We don't use AI in our business. And all of these things they're talking about, vulnerabilities in tech and AI being able to exploit it, well, we must be safe. We are okay. We don't have to worry about this because we don't let AI anywhere near our system. There are people thinking like this, and my answer to them is, you're wrong. You're wrong, because the point is that the capabilities exist today for AI to be deployed in finding vulnerabilities in your system, in your technology stack, and for it to exploit that vulnerabilities. And the point is, the attacker doesn't need your consent, doesn't need your permission to do this. The only question is whether you find this hole first in your tech stack or whether somebody else does. And my wager is this. the odds of finding these vulnerabilities and patching these vulnerabilities yourself are infinitesimally greater with AI, without AI. And so opting out is not an option. We're all in this together. And so sorry, but my point is, look, we all have to think long and hard about our technology stack, about vulnerabilities, about securities. You cannot opt out of this by just saying, I don't have an AI policy. We don't use AI in our system, or our policy is never to use AI. That ship is sailed.
I agree. I agree. And regardless of why we think it's happened, but I mean, I'm going to go all movie on us, right? I mean, do we actually think that we are heading to like iRobot and like the Age of Ultron in the Marvel movies, where I mean, I do worry. I mean, I honestly, like, I was having a bad, I mean, this is completely sort of on topic, but off topic. I was having a bad day the other day, and I nearly, I don't know what I was thinking. I nearly actually opened up ChatGPT and go, this is how I'm feeling. What should I really be thinking about right this moment? And I thought, oh my God, like, what am I doing? So we're giving it all this stuff. It's almost like, you know, even what's the blooming movie, Independence Day, where like the aliens take over and then they get the common cold and all die. Like, are we worried about the fact that we're educating them to cheat the system, to basically take over humans? I mean, I actually am a bit worried about this, because we put everything into this bloody system. We're just pumping it full of how we should deal with emotions and, you know, what's going on in our family units. And I mean, everything's going in this monster system. And you're right, Abraham. No one's escaping it. They've got, you know, they won't use, this is what a joke, right? They won't use it. They won't use ChatGPT in their business, but they've got Siri and bloody Alexa stuck in their kitchen, listening to
Yeah.
every single thing that's gone on. I am a little bit probably more worried than I think I am. Like, what do you two think about? I mean, are we going down the route of iRobot, or am I just being over melodramatic on a Thursday morning?
Yeah, no, I don't think you were being overly melodramatic. And it was War of the Worlds, incidentally.
War of the Worlds. It was.
Independence Day,
It
we
was.
defeated the aliens by uploading a virus on a USB
hang on, let's be clear. The Americans defeated the alien. We didn't.
True.
The Americans
with
did.
a USB stick.
It was
with a
War of
virus
the
on it.
Worlds. War of the Worlds.
No, so you are right to be worried, and look, there's a couple of worries really. So the first thing is, it's only come out in the last fortnight that the researchers have now discovered the J space. So the J space is, they weren't aware of the existence of it previously, and the J space is where these AIs talk to themselves and are doing their thinking for themselves, and that wasn't visible to researchers prior to, like, literally a fortnight ago. They've just gone, hang on, they're doing stuff that we didn't know they were doing. Maybe we should look at the J space and see what's happening in the J space. And I'm sure once the AIs realize we're now looking at their thoughts in the J space, they'll create the L space or whatever the next version is.
We're going to all be killed.
Well, that's why that's why I always say please and thank you to my two AIs.
Yeah, you've been amazing. I always go with, that was amazing, you're amazing. I always start with that. Yeah. I wanted to remember me.
100%. Well, hopefully you and I will be okay. Abraham will be in trouble.
Yeah, well, I am not as pessimistic about this. I follow, you know, a lot of what's going on in the US around the thinking about how we regulate these things. And Dario, who's the CEO of Anthropic, is actually very big on regulation. The latest thinking now in that space is that they're going to form a kind of what they call a self-regulating body, much like security exchange, you know, like FINRA is called in the US, which is an industry-funded body to regulate financial services. They're thinking about having that kind of framework where you will put the best scientists and researchers, and it will be funded by the industry, and they will have the responsibility to oversee the release of the frontier models. This will apply to only the best and the brightest models. Not so that's the latest thinking. And actually, it's one of the very few areas that the big frontier labs seem to agree on. OpenAI seem to agree. Anthropic seem to agree. Even Elon seemed to agree with this direction of travel. Now, I know you can look at that and think, yeah, we're going to leave these people to regulate themselves and all that stuff. Well, yes, sure. We should be cynical about these sort of things, but I have faith in humanity. I think that we can put guardrails around these things in a way that it doesn't get completely out of hands. So that's the only thing. That's the only comfort I can offer. But to your point, you know there are areas of concerns with these things. My point is, I don't think we can just shy away from it. We have to confront, as businesses, we have to confront the challenges that are set before us and find how we respond as individuals and organization. And then there are bigger societal issues that we all have to worry
Yeah.
about. But I don't, your style, Matt and Michelle, to be nice to the robots, so that they can be nice when they take over. It's not a bad strategy.
I agree. I agree. I agree. I think just one more point. I don't think this is ever going to be like. Let's be honest. The financial services regulator has been trying to regulate humans for God knows how long, right? There is
Yeah,
absolutely not very successfully. I may add, at times
yeah,
there is no way
yeah.
this is going to ever be regulated. It's going to outsmart everyone and everything that tries to. It will just keep reinventing itself, and it will have the intelligence to do that. I think we should be absolutely petrified, honestly. Like I live in a world of glitter and sparkle most of the time, and very rarely do I actually even look at the news because it just depresses me. But this is something that's coming down the line. It's up there with popcorn lung, like kids are vaping at 12 years old. It's coming down the line.
Mm.
I swear it is. And there's nothing we can do about it. It's gonna just happen, and I reckon we will literally be defenseless to it, truthfully. And I'm very positive all the time, but I think we are going to see the demise of the planet at some point because of it.
Yeah,
There
I
you
mean,
have.
so
Yeah.
you may be right. I mean, I'm just one positive, and I have to say on Abraham's point about regulation, I think actually I have a different issue with all the big incumbent players inventing a regulator, and that's because that looks like regulatory capture actually and
Yeah,
preventing smaller players coming
Yeah.
in.
yeah. I
Yeah.
But
agree with that. Yeah,
that aside, I mean, I guess I mean it's a great business model, isn't it? It's like being someone who yeah, I don't know, is a chainmail manufacturer, and suddenly you invent the arrow, and you go, well, look at this deadly weapon. It's just as well I've invented this other thing that will defend you against this deadly weapon. Come and buy my defensive. And I suspect that's where the AI firms will go. They'll say, right, if you haven't got Fable deployed in your business, prevent finding the vulnerabilities and prevent closing them up, your OpenAI, look, OpenAI are going to come and attack you, or someone using a malicious actor using it. So we may be okay, but yeah, I sit somewhere between the two of you in terms of worrying about it and thinking it's all going to be okay. I think the thing for advisors is we need to work out how we're going to start using it. I keep seeing, I mean,
yeah,
actually every week in the financial press, or the advisor press anyway, big firm CEOs in the advice space saying, "Oh, I've looked at AI and it's not brilliant and it's not very good." And we've had people on this pod before saying this actually. And then you actually interact with it and see what it's capable of, and you think there's such a gap at the moment between some people
yeah,
and what they think AI is capable of and what it is actually capable of. And the question at the moment, I mean, we use AI extensively within our business, but currently we can't give our data, client data, the important stuff where we could do the most good for clients, we can't give it to the two best models because they're not based in the EU. They're American, and your data is going to immediately get shipped out and you're being breached for all sorts of data reg rules. So where there's a bit of a lag in financial services, I mean, Abraham software is great. It's now got an AI built into it, so you can use that AI with a high degree of confidence that that's going to be okay and it's not going to come and attack you or release your client data.
At the moment.
I mean, eventually, I guess, Timeline will be run by Penny AI, and Abraham will be sunning himself on a beach somewhere, probably. That's the dream for him, anyway. But that's where we need to get to. The bits of tech that we're using at the moment as advisors need to give us access to better AI tools. Because at the moment, all I can use Claude and ChatGPT for is non-client specific work. So marketing, images, video generation, audio. There's lots you can do with it, but it's all useful to me as a business owner, not impactful for my clients. And that's what I want. That's the next leap we all need to make.
Do you think something's being missed just on that point? You just give me a thought. One second. Do you think advisors, because you're right, Matt, like advisors are like, we're just testing, Sonia or whatever it's called, right? This particular Sophie or whatever it's flipping called, like there's all these little tools. But do you think advisors are missing the fact that they might not be using AI, but their clients are using AI quite happily, quite openly in their own businesses, in their own family homes? And I suppose it's a little bit like that, isn't it? There's almost like advisors are standing, we're going to use it, or we're just going to use one tool, but their clients are becoming so tech savvy, some of them who are running businesses like we are, and it's almost the advisors getting behind because their clients are using the tools and the platforms. Because the clients don't live in a bubble that they're going, oh no, we don't want AI. Some do, of course. Maybe the older generation, maybe. Do you think that's being missed in all of this? And the conversations with advisors?
100%. And I think that's a real risk for advice firm owners in terms of losing clients. So we are, I would say, probably above average in our use of and deployment of AI. But, I had a client who is in the retired generation. And I think actually some of those people have, dare I say, too much time on their hands and are probably spending more time than your average working person with AI.
True.
And he sent me some AI output. Unfortunately for him, he accidentally copied in the query he'd given the AI, which was, what should my financial advisor be doing for me? I was like, hang on a minute, that's what he's been looking after you for 10 years. What the hell's going on here? And then, the AI has done a pretty good job actually of summarizing everything we do for them. And the client was just going, look, I've been playing around with this tool and it's done this and this, and it says I should ask these questions. Fortunately, we were able to answer all of those, apart from maybe one, which was a fair point, and we can improve the service. And it was a good flag. But they're the clients being honest about it. There'll be a whole load of clients who will be saying to ChatGPT, how do I replace my advisor? What are they doing that you can't do for me?
What do you?
So
this is my, and also because they're Joe Public. Let's assume they're Joe Public, right? And some of them don't own businesses, and then maybe they are uploading their return statements, so and saying, what return should I be looking at? And we're not putting their data in the bloody World Wide Web, but they are. They're doing that because they've not got access to the support and resources and knowledge that we have in our wonderful magical sector of financial services. So it's a bit of a worry, right?
On that cheery note, I mean, we can go on and on this topic, but I don't believe that we can ever do it justice. So but it's been great to hear your thought, Michelle and Matt, on this subject. So let's move on, shall we? Matt, this is a topic you put forward. Do you want to lay on SJP? Some of SJP's biggest firms or practices are leaving, and so therefore is there a risk to this big giant corporate machine of a financial advisor business?
Yeah, so I put this one on the docket really partly selfishly for my own education. So, and you, Michelle, will know more about this than I will, certainly. So I'm hoping you can enlighten me. I've always labored under the impression that the way SJP work, they manufacture their products and they have advisors who are self-employed, but, you know, whether they're truly self-employed or not, you could argue, because they can only recommend SJP's products that have been manufactured for them. I'm not wanting to open up a debate about whether that's bad or good. It's bad, but my question is, I always understood that the advisors were completely locked into that model. That if you left SJP, unlike most other advice firms, you had to start again from scratch. You couldn't take your clients with you. SJP owned the clients, and it seems to have been that way for the entire 2 and a bit decades I've been working. And then all of a sudden, within the space of a few weeks, they've had one large firm get picked up by Soderbergh Partners, I think, they were managing 5 billion. And then there was another one that went somewhere else, and True Potential seemed to be kind of trying to tease people away. All of a sudden, it's looked for a long time like this impregnable, that's not the right word, muscle. And then all of a sudden, they seem to be having really big chunks bitten out of them by other big players. So I just really, it's more about educate me. How's that even possible?
Yeah, do you want me to go?
Please.
Look, I think so. I'm just going to share my journey a little bit with SJP, because obviously I've been kicking around for 30 years nearly, right? And in the day, SJ, I mean, notwithstanding the advising structure, the charging structures and all the rest of it, because I've got 1,000,001 nasty, awful stories that advisors have shared with me about clients being ripped off and one thing and another. But I know lots of advisors who are part of SJP, right? And, 20, 30 years ago, SJP was a great place to be for that type of advisor. When I say that type of advisor, maybe sales orientated, not a baddie, but sales orientated, great with relationships, great with clients, but didn't want to be bogged down with the business, the regulation, the compliance, etc. They just wanted to do their job. And, when I first came into financial services, the world was full of those people that were focused on advice. They didn't have to worry about AI and well-being and mental health and teams. And they were agents in big life insurance companies overseas. They were advisors in Allied Dunbar and so on, right? But what's happened is SJP has created an environment where the right type of advisor has made a lot of money. And I will say this, publicly, whether you're an IFA or you're a part of it like SJP, you can make good money being mediocre. You just can. Easier in the olden days, but less so now. But there's a bit of me, I feel sad for SJP that these firms that have made all this money because they were fit for purpose then, I think now you've got AI and business coaches and tools and techniques that make it much easier to run businesses, whereas it was probably more difficult years ago. Now they're up sticks and going. Well, you can't have your cake and eat it, really. The place that's got you here, you're now binning to go and do it somewhere else. But the point, Matt, is it's mixed. This bit around whether they own their clients, take their clients or whatever. I've seen both. I've seen SJP go to absolute town on some advisors and say, you're not taking a single one of them. But I've also seen advisors walk with clients, like take clients because of a smarter way of, it's mixed, really mixed. So I don't know, but they've had a tough time. They've maybe not behaved as well as they should have. But there's a bit of me, I do feel a bit like, well, it suited you at the time when you were making loads of money from being in SJP. What now, unethically, you don't agree with it all and now you want to go because it's easier for you to do so. I don't know. I'm mixed on it because I think the situation is mixed, but I'm not surprised that it's happening, would be my view on it. I'm not surprised at all. And I think it will continue. And I think we'll see that in larger firms, in other tied networks as well, and agencies. I think we'll see the same thing happening.
Well, how much do I love being right? Because three
Oh, do you? We did
a
know
lot,
that.
I think, from my memory.
3 years ago, I wrote an article titled "Between Iraq and St. James's Place." And in this article, I made a couple of points, two important ones. Essentially, that the real moat that SJP had as a big giant machine was being eroded by the changes that they made to their charging structure. The biggest of those two modes is this idea. This is what has stopped firms, advisors from leaving, was this idea of exit charge, of 6% or whatever that was, that if as an advisor you moved your client, you left SJP, your client will be clobbered by a big exit fee which prevented them from leaving. So what SJP introduced was essentially the gradual removal of that exit charge. The second thing, modes that they had was these loans that they were giving to firms or to advisors to buy the client of other advisors. And what that loan framework did was to assure this regeneration, that firms, advisors can always sell their book of business for like over exaggerated valuation to the next generation of Muppets. Sorry, I shouldn't say.
So bad.
Next generation of people who will take on that debt and then buy this book of business, and it will become harder for them to leave. Anyway, this change that they made weakened those two modes, made it less attractive for new guys and girls to buy books of business and be laden with debt, which reduced the valuation of the business book for the existing advisors, which then meant that the existing advisor can move the client more easily because they would no longer be clobbered by exit penalty. These decisions, by the way, which I like, just weaken the moat of this organization. I am surprised that it's happening 2-3 years into that article. I thought this would take longer, but I am afraid this is just the beginning. And I get the point that you're making,
Yeah, I agree.
Michelle. I get your point about many of these advisors, they've had the structure built for them, and they've thrived under that structure. But that model is weakened. I want to say maybe no longer fit for the age and time that we live in. This is capitalism. I don't believe that, from what I have seen, that these guys are doing anything that is morally wrong. They are responding to a set of circumstances and opportunities that have presented themselves. This is the essence of the capitalistic world that we live in. And dare I say, I think this is good for the customer. I love this business. I love this marketplace. It's so dynamic. You always have to be on your toes. Otherwise, you will get eaten by the sharks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
True. Yeah.
So are those, but they're jumping to other big shops, right? So are those environments any different? For the advisor now being previously under SJP, now under Soderbergh or True Potential or whatever. If that's not going to scratch the itch for them, is it? So what I'm surprised is there aren't more of these big SJP ARs. I didn't even know they had ARs. I clearly completely misunderstood the structure of SJP. But where's the big £3 billion SJP partner practice that is just going to hive off and go DA and just completely everything themselves.
It wouldn't.
And
It's a bit like Matt, me having a 50-year-old son that's lived with me when I'm 70, and then going, "Do you fancy living on your own?" And he's like, "Absolutely flipping not. I'll move in with Auntie
Michelle,
Jane." Right? They can't. I don't think they could. That's literally like, they don't know how to function in an environment that's not like the one that they've been in, but different and better. Like, you think of True Potential. I mean, I remember when True Potential was really taking hold years and years and years ago. It was almost like the modern business. It was like the modern network. It was, it was tech, it was light, it was rebranded, it was funky colours, it was purple and yellow or whatever it was. It's almost like they're built for the modern world, where SJP, Rathbones, and there's many others, they're almost the equivalent of going into the bank manager's office with a big oak teak desk with a big green pad in the middle. It's the same thing. So I can't see them ever going directly regulated. They would not. I think they would completely be out of their depth. I don't know. Abraham's probably got more of a view of it, but straight away I'm like, why would they do that? They're going to go and live with Auntie Jane because they can't boil an egg.
She's going to wash their socks and
Yeah,
cook their dinner.
true, right?
Yeah.
They've never had to do some stuff, even if they've been in business for 30 years. They've never had to do their own washing. Like, how do they know how to do that? I don't know. That's just my first thought.
Are my teenagers never going to move out of the
No,
house? Is that
stop
what you're
looking
telling
after
me?
them so
Oh,
well.
no.
They're going to go and live with Auntie
Well,
Jane. They'll never be able to
Yeah,
afford
it's
a
their
house.
mum. It's their mum that's looking
Yeah,
after them
see?
too well. I do keep saying to this, the more you do for them, the longer they'll be here.
It's, without me going into this, because I could open up a whole other kettle of fish, but it's almost like they're trauma bonded. It's like they're trauma bonded to big. Do you know what I mean? Like, in a good way, because they've made good money and they've been very successful.
Trauma bonded in a good way.
Well, I think there is always a good way.
Jake, there's a snippet for social. Was trauma bonded in a positive way.
That's the next topic, right? That's the next topic. But ultimately, that's it. It is that, like, they're almost petrified to leave the relationship, but they've gone to something that's it's like. Joking aside, it is like when you have domestic abuse. It's why often women end up in an equally domestic abusive relationship, but just further down the road. Honestly, it's why it does. You're trauma bonded, like trauma bonded. Abraham's never going to invite me on again. He's like, "Flipping out with 37 minutes in, and we've."
No. Look, you are absolutely right. I mean, I wrote an article when I left my old firm. There's one of these big consolidators, saying that essentially a lot of the advisors I worked with, for 10, 15 plus years, it was like Stockholm syndrome. They couldn't conceive of leaving the firm they've been with for 10, 15 years. And Outdoors turning 10 soon, and they are still in the same office at the same desks with the same crappy coffee machines that they had 10 years ago when I left. These are good, really good advisors.
Yeah.
The opposite actually of SJP, because they're all horribly underpaid, but again, they're locked in by that psychology of I couldn't thrive outside of my bubble.
Yeah. And they're scared that the grass isn't greener on the other side, and it's all like this. But there's people that crave certainty and elements of certainty, which is probably quite a lot. But then there's the others that want complete uncertainty and will go directly regulated. But it's not going to be very many of them. Not when they're institutionalized, right, into that environment. Whether it's good or bad, they're institutionalized. It's like someone going from corporate to going to be an entrepreneur and setting up their own business. It's very, very scary when they've been institutionalized, would be my view, I think.
Michelle, I was actually thinking we should have you on this podcast more, because you are so perceptive, so totally out of control, which makes me seem like the reasonable guy on this pod. So
I know,
yes.
I'm bad cop. You're turning into good cop.
I am the nice guy on this podcast. No, I really enjoyed it. And I don't think I have laughed so much on a pod as I have on this one. So thank you for bringing it. I do know one firm. You're absolutely right. I do know one firm, a group of, I think there are 4 or 5 advisors who've gone independent. I'm trying to remember whether they've gone through a network, but the idea is that they are going directly authorized. So you would have a few, but you are absolutely right.
Not many.
Yeah, absolutely. You have another topic on this. FNZ posting 1 billion of losses last year, and you say begs the question, what's going on in this? What is the future of platform tech? Matt?
Yeah, look, this is so again. I raise it as a question rather than anything I know anything about. This is very much your world, Abraham. You're a platform tech CEO, amongst the other 10, 15 hats you wear. I just think it's super interesting. There seems to be a lot of legacy platform providers, not just in platform world, actually a lot in CRM world, who built code a long time ago, and it's old and it's clunky and it's not fit for purpose. And yet they've got caught up in a race to the bottom on fees with firms who are younger, more dynamic software firms that are younger, more dynamic, have built better tech. And I just wonder, I mean, I don't know how sustainable those kind of losses are. I mean, that's proper getting towards Elon Musk kind of levels of losing money. Yeah, it's not a space I understand very well, but Abraham, you and Michelle, you as well, will understand a bit better than me. What's the future? If there's a downward pressure, there seems to be a downward pressure on fees in pretty much every part of the industry, apart from advice fees. So at some point, some of those providers are going to start falling out of bed, right?
Yeah, with a massive bump on their head, I'd say. I mean, I'm going to follow Abraham. You go, Abraham, because I'll follow you this time.
Well, I mean, I don't know necessarily that this is a problem about fees or race to the bottom necessarily, so FNZ it controls about 40% of the assets in the UK advice market as it stands, possibly even more. I haven't looked at the data in a while. And when I was looking at this, back in the day, the rates that these platforms were actually paying, paying the back-end technology, range from anything from 3 basis points to 6 or 7 basis points that the back-end technology provider is taking. I don't think that has changed much, really, in recent times. The problem you have with FNZ is really about the fact that the technology is now getting tired. The operational efficiencies that you should have at scale is no longer there. And nobody was going to say this publicly. One of the earliest issues you had with this technology was that they were implementing different versions of the technology for different providers. And that just the cost base got out of control. And so you have that being a problem. And then there are some issues that have happened, with the share options for employees, with the big private equity companies, essentially diluting the employees to nothing. So you would have seen some of the ex FNZ employees who are now CEOs of other platforms who never said anything. I remember when I was writing about these things, they never say anything publicly because they are all building. They had share options in this company which they will put at risk.
Yeah.
They're now going on LinkedIn and writing posts and threads, and I just read these things and smile because their options have turned to dust. Shall I say? I shouldn't laugh.
Yeah.
My point is, there are bigger issues going on there, which you as an advisor who may have significant assets on platforms being powered by these organizations, you should think deeply about. I don't think FNZ is going anywhere. It's got big backers. They're going to do all of the restructuring necessary. There are cost cutting exercise going on. There are consultants overseeing the cost cutting exercise. So I don't think from a client security point of view, you should be worried. I will be thinking more about, is my technology platform going to keep pace with development? Um, don't expect that there will be any cost savings, and there are more compelling proposition with better technology, with better price, with better everything for platform out there. That's the way I'll be thinking about this challenge, if I were an advisor.
I look at it in you're right. I'm going to pick up on a thread really that you said. For me, this is like a sign of the times, right? So I think, going back to my point about, mediocre has made good money historically. Post COVID, I think there was a massive shift in our expectations as humans, as people, of everything. The service at the pub, the way that the teams behave in our business, how, sitting on a call on hold for 40 minutes. We are no longer, I think, tolerating generally bad behavior. Okay. So for me, this is like, even me and my analogy is like Marks and Spencer's nearly collapsed. Okay, and it reinvented itself. So if Abraham is right, they've got big backers, they're going to do a turnaround, they're going to look at the teams and the structure and the systems. Maybe they will, but Woolworths already also tried that. So did Littlewoods, and they are no longer in existence because it's a bit like the Kodak Blockbuster thing. Too little, too late. Even if you do a lot, but it's still too late. And I just think even if you make these massive shifts, and take Marks and Spencer's as an example. I love Marks and Spencer's, but I still don't buy Marks and Spencer's clothes. I buy their knickers, but I'm definitely buying their food. And that was an emergence of something that was. Marks and Spencer's was not known for its food. Now everybody wants to shop at Marks and Spencer's if they've hit the jackpot, right? So I think for me, it's a sign of the times, the old, the clunky, the heavy, the slow, the non-nimble, the rigid. We're no longer putting up with it across the world in all walks of life. Like I want to be able to book a flight on BA app, and in fact, this is exactly a truth. I mean, this is nothing to do with the question, clearly, but I was booking a flight to America. The BA website is shit. Honestly, it's rubbish. It keeps falling. It keeps stalling. I'm sitting there and I'm doing it at like 11 o'clock at night while I'm watching Marvel movie or whatever. And I'm like, this is breaking me. This is not okay. But I only want to fly America. I only want to fly BA to America. But what did I do? I sacked it off and I booked a Virgin flight.
Yeah.
Because it's £1,000 more expensive. But my life is too short to be waiting around to try and book my BA flight. So even me, little old Michelle, in my little old flat, even I'm not tolerating stuff like that. And I think we're all a bit like it. Life is short. We need nimble, we need fast, we need high performance, we need different thinking, we need agile. We need to pivot. Everybody needs to be on their toes, which is Abraham's point about how this magical profession is. It's always changing. And those that can't keep up will be dead, literally, whether it be a system, a platform, a team, a business, whatever. And maybe SJP is the same sort of thing, right? Who knows?
I love your BA Virgin analysis. I made a contract myself years ago. Long haul flights, I am not bothering with BA. The app drives me nuts. The planes are old. The service isn't particularly great. I will pay a bit more. I will sit in I was happily sit in Virgin's economy premium than BA's business class, even if they're the same price. I would,
Absolutely.
anyway.
Agree.
Moving
But
on.
that's an analogy.
So just before Abraham moves you on, I can top both of you because I've sworn I would never fly BA before again. And the reason why is I was flying to South Africa with them, and I turned up to T5, which is BA only, and our flight ended up being delayed by 10 hours because, and I quote the customer service person on the BA desk, they couldn't find the plane. They managed to lose, it's not a small item, they managed to lose a plane at their dedicated terminal at Heathrow. After which, and why we missed our connecting flights, I was like, do you know what? These guys don't know what they're doing. They're a big final salary pension fund with a small airline attached, to the side of it. I trust them more with my pension fund than I would with flying anywhere these days.
And you're
Anyway,
right, but
that felt good to get that out.
but an F&N's point to that point is we've all got more choice. If BA was the only flight you could only ever take, whether they lost an airplane or not, you couldn't do a single thing about it because that was your only option. We live in a world where we have an abundance of lots of options, and that's why mediocre will no longer be okay for anybody in any business, anywhere.
And it's getting easier to switch as well. Back to Abraham's original point about AI. AI means that switching service provider, whatever product will be so much quicker and slicker once that really starts to kick in. The bad companies, the companies that have got terrible customer service, and there are plenty of them out there, there's plenty in our sector, will hopefully finally die. I suspect the big CRM provider I have an issue with in financial services will eventually die because advisors will realize they can move their data
easily,
as AI makes it easy to do.
For better. No need to be trauma bonded to anybody.
Matt's going on a different tangent there, so I need to claw him back out of that. Let's try and help. Let's try and end this pod on a positive note. Michelle, talk to us. You're the queen of business operation, practice management, excellence. You're doing a lot of work on that with bombs. I saw your LinkedIn post the other day. You were a little bit frustrated about how you were a bit frustrated about how maybe as a profession we're not investing enough into business operation, our business operation managers and people to attend events and upgrade themselves, all that stuff. Talk to us about the work you're doing and the gripes you have, with business owners in our space.
Okay, well, I'm amongst friends, so I'm gonna speak openly, right? Okay, I love financial services. I always have loved financial services. I love financial planners. I love financial advisors, and I have dedicated my whole life to supporting them to run better businesses. It's never been questioned. It's never been, oh, shall I go and do it for estate agents, or shall I go and jump ship and go and do it for general businesses? But the more and more the years have gone on, I've become more and more frustrated with the people that I've dedicated my life to. And that is because I have seen generationally, advisors be in the center of the universe. Then it wasn't about advisors, it was about financial planners. And then it wasn't about financial planners, it was about paraplanners. And then we've had these tidal waves of shifts where, it's always been around, advisors on a pedestal, planners on a pedestal, and everybody else in the business is kind of insignificant because they don't generate any money, quite frankly, would be the way it's seen. I could categorically disagree, obviously. Then you've had paraplanners and the rise of the paraplanner. And the problem with paraplanners is they've soiled their own inkwell because they have demanded high salaries that now firms can't afford them. Outsource people, there's a few very good ones and the rest are really struggling. We've kind of poisoned our own inkwell generally. By advisors being put on a pedestal and being the centre of the universe, it sent a message badly across our sector, which is a massive problem, Abraham. And if we could ever fix this, I would love you forever, is that if you're not an advisor, you are nothing. If you are not a planner, you are not important. And I literally, at moments, it does actually bring me to tears when I see people in jobs that are not fit for them, that they think that the only way they're going to get any self-worth or recognition in our magical sector is to become a planner or an advisor. So that's the tip of the iceberg for me. Then what you've got is an advisor 3.0. You've got, Plan X. You've got all these amazing conferences of which I have always supported over the years unconditionally. They're selling out tickets. This is what started your point. They're selling out tickets, 100 tickets, 50 tickets, 300 tickets done in 24 hours. I have created an environment for those that are actually the next generation of decision makers in our financial services businesses. You know, you've got your wonderful COO, Abraham, who, you know, she is the backbone of your business, and her team and who support her. And there are many of her inside these firms running businesses, making decisions, and they are doing it like it's a thankless task. They're not appreciated, not supported, not paid properly, not trained, not developed, and they're certainly not allowed to go out to a conference arranged by Michelle Hoskin and her team because they're way too busy. Yet they, advisors, planners, business owners, can fill out 300, 400, 500 pounds, not even thinking twice about it, to give you sellout tickets. And I'm like, why am I having to convince people still to invest in the people that are running their business? And just as a closing point, before we open this up clearly, is, you know, I put a post out recently which says, you know, you think operations doesn't make any money, try and make any money without operations. And that's it. And I've got to get financial services behind this, because AI was the nail in the coffin. Planners, advisors don't know what they're doing. COVID was another one where they didn't know how to manage the well-being and the mental health of their teams. It was the practice managers and the ops managers and the business managers that kept the lights on from a physical perspective. Okay, they didn't earn a single penny. They kind of do, but not directly. But these businesses would be screwed without them. Yeah, I keep having to put business cases together and rally the troops to convince them to let these people out and develop them and train them. And I don't understand it. I'm literally at a loss. And that was a third rewrite of that post, Abraham, because I had to tone it down and get off my soapbox and take some words out, literally. And I thought to myself,
can we
if
see
I
the
go
original?
in...
Can you send the original to
No,
Abraham and
I
Matt privately?
burned
We
it.
won't share it, I promise.
I burned it along with the stake they're going to put me at, right, if I carry on. But honestly, I don't know. I'm at a loss. I'm fighting their corner all the time, but they are the future of businesses, and they are the future of financial planning businesses. And the sector has got to open their eyes and wake up fast, because it's going to come with a much heavy price if they don't.
So can I ask a question at this point? So are we talking about business managers, ops managers, or is it broader than that? Is it the kind of entire support structure?
No,
Michelle,
my thing, as Abraham alluded, is operations. It's like imagine you've got all these bits in the body. Ops for me is the heartbeat. It's the pumper. Paraplanners are not even part of that pumper. You know, some would argue they are in the right circles. Of course, they are very important, and all support teams are important. But it's that one person really that's holding it all together, that's coordinating it. They're the dumping ground. You know, you want something doing, give it to them. They'll do it. You know, but there's no training for them. No, this is why we did all the training programs and the career pathways, and you know, even. You know, there was a paper published the other day, which I didn't have any involvement in. I've kind of been invited in at the end of it. But it was like a women in finance career pathways. And they slid operations in under compliance. No! Like, why would you do that? Why would you put ops with compliance? Why was there not their own channel of management? We can go through management without sitting a single RO exam and be amazing and highly valuable in this sector. Don't jab us in with compliance. That's unfair. That's like putting advisors in the paraplanner box. That's unfair, but they didn't do that.
That's unfair to the paraplanners, to be honest. Because this is super interesting to me as a business owner, you know, grappling with all these things all the time, and ops is so important. Yeah, because of your other point, I mean, yes, I would say they are revenue generating, frankly, but also they're your protection layer as well. Because if something's going to go wrong, it is more than likely going to go wrong at that level, and it's big numbers if it goes wrong at that level. So how big is the sector? Because, you know, again, Abraham, as our resident stato, as I said last time, he will be able to tell you the size of the average advice firm. There's still, by volume, the most advisors are 2 advisors, a paraplanner and 2 admin. And so you haven't quite got the scale for that to have an ops manager role in there, or a COO, or you know, whatever the equivalent is. If it isn't, or if we're taking out all of those size firms, what is the space that you're
Yeah,
targeting? I mean, how
but
many
you
of these
can't
people
take
are
them
there
out.
genuinely
Yeah,
in the sector?
but Matt, you can't take them out, because even if I've got a firm with 5 people in it, and you've got a power planner, an advisor, and an outsource this, and maybe the wife's working with them or something, someone in there is doing ops. So forget the job person. If us 3 work together in a financial services business and it's just the 3 of us, 1 or more of us is picking up the ops stuff. We have to. Even if Abraham worked on his own as a single advisor.
I could tell you now, it wouldn't be Abraham and
No, I know it wouldn't.
that'd be a recipe for disaster.
I would do it. I would do it. But you can't, the size is irrelevant. So when we organise these events, like this conference, I want to invite the administrator from that business that's doing ops. I've got business owners in our community, in our ops community, that do ops. They're a member because they do ops. If I worked on my own as a solo advisor, there is a part of my day where I do ops. All that happens is the bigger we get and the more money I have as that solo advisor, I might decide to go and hire one that does it part-time, full-time, so that I don't have to do any of the business stuff. Because I always say this, advisors are better at writing their own reports than they are running their business. So actually, I think they should hire somebody in business administration before they even lay a finger on a power planner every day of the week. Every day of the week. Because even Abraham being rubbish at ops, he can still write his own reports. He could write his own reports because that's part of his job as an advisor and a planner, as an example. So it's not about the size of the business, Matt. I think when you get to like 5 people up, you then need to have somebody who's the conductor of the orchestra, making sure that admin's working, power planning's working, advice is working, clients are happy. And it might not be called an ops person, but that function exists in a one-man business. It's just the one man's doing it, or one woman, or whatever. It exists everywhere.
That was a genuine question, because I wanted to understand who you were talking about. So it is much broader.
So Michelle, your next event is the 1st of October, 2026 in London. What can we do? What can Matt and I do to help more people, more ops admin people attend this? What can we do to change?
I think just
To make a difference on
spread
this?
the word. Just spread the word, talk about it. Literally, I find myself, like if I let's imagine you were in my gang, right? My We Love Michelle and What She's Doing gang, and you saw an ops person post something on LinkedIn, or you knew a firm had an ops person. I want you to go and tell them about bombs. Tell them we exist. Say, have you heard of bombs? Have you thought about joining bombs? Do you know there's a whole community for you? Just literally, I find myself like picking people out of posts on LinkedIn and like sabotaging their newsfeed and probably pissing a lot of people off by going, hey, you're an ops person, come and join my family, come and join my gang. I think it's just awareness. When you do know you have firms that have an operations person, tell them about us. Abraham, I've thought, I don't know if you got to hear, but I had standing room only at Advisor 3.0.
Yeah.
Like I was in the Great British Bake Off tent. I was in the Great British Bake Off tent, and they were turning people away, right? So I think ultimately I've worked for 30 years to build a reputation, and it's taking me so far. It's getting me, or you need to go and speak to Michelle, or Michelle's the person that talks like this. But I need I need more platforms. Simple. It's like doing this. It's like speaking at Advisor 3.0. It's like whatever. I need to just keep spreading the word, but I just need a hand. And one of the hardest thing was, right? And when I first launched Bombs, I decided that I needed to get the sector behind this. They needed to put some much needed firepower, because I knew it would fail if I didn't get some sponsorship money to literally put on a great event, to choose a great venue. And I got turned down by people that I've done stuff for free for years because I didn't have paraplanners in the room. And literally, I used to put the phone down and go, it's a massive oversight on your part. Not yours, but yours collectively. Because I'm like, in a bit, I'll give it 5 years, but the business managers will be making the decisions whether to use your platform or not. Not the power planners won't be. So just batten down the hatches, kids. So
No,
it's that. It's just raising awareness, and as much about that as you can is amazing.
yeah, I like the challenge that you put forward, Michelle. And I have to say, I am in many ways guilty of many of these things that you've spoken about. In my defense, we have a stream now. We had a stream last year, the year before, for operations. You
We did.
spoke at one of the stream, and you are absolutely right. It was standing room only. We were turning people off. And Hannah said to me, Michelle deserves her own bigger space next year. So she's working on it. But also we put ops directors, practice managers on their own stand as well. So we had at least two sessions, maybe more
Yeah.
actually, for
Good.
operations
Yeah,
at the
good.
event. Now, speaking of bombs, there is a lot more that we can do. I will sponsor, I don't know how you would do this, but I will pay for 5 people in planning firms, not
I
connected,
love you.
regardless of whether they're connected to timeline or not. Let's announce it. 5 free tickets. For operations
Love you.
admin people to attend bombs next this year in
Amazing.
October. We can shout about it on LinkedIn. Um, uh,
I love you.
let's get energy around it. But look, I know that there is work to do. We are timeline as guilty as other people, because you're assessing all this, and there are
Yes,
so many of them. You're assessing all the
I
different
know.
events. When it comes to sponsorship, there is only limited resource, and you're thinking, which ones am I going
Of
to get
course.
the biggest impact? And it's a tough old world, unfortunately. But
Of
I
course.
agree entirely with the case you're making. These are the people who get the machine run effectively, and we need to make sure that they're empowered, educated, all of that stuff to do the work that they do. So yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I appreciate that, Abram, and I think just offer those inside your family, your timeline family, in terms of your client, your firms that use timeline, because
The trouble, Michelle, is if I go and announce it within our audience, someone's going to talk to me about inducement rules. It's like if I
okay,
limit,
fair dues,
I,
fair dues,
I,
fair
Plus,
dues.
also, to be honest,
this is the
all
thing.
of Abraham's timeline firms can afford their own tickets. They
Yeah,
don't need
but
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. But you know what? It's a bit like you invest in, like, whatever. And this is to everybody. I've still got financial planning practices that have been on the front cover of New Model Advisor, and their
mm,
operations manager has phoned me and got my
mm,
number and said they are not allowed to take the day off. They're
right,
not
there's
giving it
that.
as a training day. They have had to take it off on holiday, and they've
Yeah.
had to pay £175 for their own ticket. Yeah, I've just seen that firm is on the front cover of New Model Advisor. It's an outrage. Like, it's not okay. It's not okay. Hence the original LinkedIn post, when I kind of got on my soapbox a bit, and it was toned down significantly. But yeah, I mean, I think the future, 10 years ago, the future of this sector sat in paraplanning for many, many reasons. And I think we're there again. And I will say the same thing, like, I love it when I'm right, because I'm going to be, is in that 10 years, the people that are running these businesses and MDs are not financial planners. The CEOs are not going to be financial planners. They're going to be operations centered individuals who are literally showing. Because do you know what? Last point, 'cause I keep saying last point, but we want to turn an industry into a profession. And what has turned an industry into a profession has been financial planners and paraplanners. That's what's done, turning an industry into a profession. What's going to turn a profession into a business sector is by putting operations people at the helm. More paraplanners, more planners are not going to turn this from a profession into a business industry properly. It's going to be operations people that are going to do that. And that's the next jump for us in the next 20 years, in my view,
Incredible.
I think.
No, incredible stuff, Michelle. Thank you for the challenge. Thanks for coming on the pod. And for once,
Loved it.
putting Matt and I in our Matt has no words.
Someone had to. It's bound to happen.
we must have you back. I just love the energy. I love the passion that you bring,
Me
to
too.
the
Me
discussion.
too.
And of course, all the incredible work that you're doing. The profession is lucky to have you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. And Matt, I hope you've
Thanks.
enjoyed
Thanks. Pleasure.
all of the discussions today. It's been great. Thank you to our listeners, to Jake, for hosting. Thank you, and goodbye.
Bye.